Good day, everybody. My name is Robert Savino. I'm on the Board of Trustees of the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and I greet you today on behalf of our Executive Director, Cynthia Shaw, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and welcome you to Season 3's Triangulation Journey, Poets Building Bridges. Poets Building Bridges is produced by Poetrybay Productions for the Walt Whitman Birthplace and led by George Wallace, who has been the writer-in-residence at the Birthplace for the last 13 years. The Birthplace does offer many events throughout the year, much of them on Zoom. I recommend that you check out the website for details. And as always, I thank all the poets and followers who are here today joining us on this journey. I thank Derry for being our technical support at the Birthplace. And of course, George, for the continuance of this program, for all he does for the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and for all he does for poetry. And now I pass the virtual mic to George Wallace.
Thank you. That was Robert Savino. Robert Savino, in addition to being on the board of directors of the Walt Whitman Birthplace, is also a very fine poet in his own right and a former Suffolk County Poet Laureate. So he's been very supportive of this program and other programs that we've put on at the Walt Whitman Birthplace, presenting poetry either through Zoom or live in performance, at the Birthplace itself. There's a number of really becoming faithful fans and audience participants in this program in its third season. And those of you who join us regularly, I see a number of people. Thank you for your regular participation and support of this series. Like I say, this is the third season for Poets Building Bridges, and this is the second episode, which will have, I think, 10 events over the course of 2024. Triangulating different communities of poets from different places around the country and around the world. And it truly is a unique methodology that we have in place here, in that it is groups of poets from different locations that are interacting with each other, as opposed to a random group of a dozen or 15 poets from wherever they may happen to be. This becomes a community to community sharing event, and so it's pretty exceptional. And I thank you all for your understanding of it and the spirit with which you're participating in it today. We have three very fine groups of people who are going to be presenting today. A group from South Cumbria, led by Anne Grant. A group which is magazine based or lit mag based, which is Rebecca Schumejda's group from Trailer Park Quarterly, and then the third group is geographically from the Erie, Pennsylvania area, with a second appearance with a group of people from Chuck Joy. So we'll hear all three of those, and as always, I want to thank the Walt Whitman Birthplace for all that it really does. I mean, because Walt Whitman Birthplace does not have to be supportive of poetry in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that it is a blessing to us all. As Robert says, I've been involved for 13 years, but there was a time when the Walt Whitman Birthplace had other competing interests. They were interested in maintaining the building that was constructed by Walt's father, by supporting and promoting the legacy and heritage of Walt Whitman himself. So the fact that the Birthplace has been as supportive as it has to regional poets in the Long Island and New York City area and beyond is not a given. So I want to thank the Walt Whitman Birthplace for its continued support of all of us here as an institution which supports the sharing of poetry locally, nationally, and worldwide. So we're going to kick this off right now. I could just tell you very briefly about Anne Grant. Anne is a person that I've worked with several times in South Cumbria and Kendall, where she was running a poetry series. At a place called Glaxgo, which is, you know, an industrial building that this chemical company was supportive of the arts in the Ulverston area. She ran a show there one time, I recall, and then most recently, and it's not too recently because I haven't seen Andy in a while. You know, we had this Hode Fest, HOAD, Hode Fest, under this tower, which is a historical tower in Ulverston. So she is a person who organizes events and is a very talented and entertaining performer and poet in her own right. She's going to lead the first group from South Cumbria, England. Welcome, Anne Grant.
Thank you so much, George. First of all, if it's all right, could Curtis Hayes and other Curtis Hayes please mute yourselves? Because it's just causing a little bit of feedback having both of your microphones on. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you so much to my gorgeous and uber talented friend George Wallace for inviting us along to hear. We're so excited to hear everybody. Thank you very much to the Walt Whitman Birthplace for having us along and for all your support. And thanks to Rebecca and the wonderful poets from Trailer Park Quarterly. We're looking forward to hearing you, and also to Chuck and those wonderful poets from Pennsylvania. Really excited to hear you all. So as George said, I'm in Cumbria in England, in the UK. We're in the Lake District, and I run a night called Verbalize in Kendall, which happens every month. And we have an open mic and some guest poets, and the three poets that I'm introducing to you tonight have all been guest poets at Verbalize, and they are John Scott, Emma Purshouse, and Chris Nortley, also known as Rowland Crowland. It's a real honor to introduce them all to you because they are some of my favorite poets ever. Of course, George is on that list. First of all, I'm going to introduce to you John. So John is a performance poet. He's a creative writing tutor. He's an environmental activist. He's got an album out with his friend Martin Dewar, which has had lots of radio play on the BBC over here. Please welcome John Scott. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, John.
Okay, good. So I've got three poems for you tonight. One maybe a couple of years old and two very recent ones. So I'll start with this one called The Sea of Love. So deep in the day, before the first G&T, before she gave him the keys, before her blurred words left his head swimming in magic empathies. He'd been stockpiling cantankerous for some time, awaited the launch date with fortitude wine. He was wrong, she was right. God knows she eyelashed him into submission. A John Dory light bulb question in the intermission, they danced a rudderless dance, ran aground on some bottle bank, now a danger to shipping. Is he playing deaf or is she lip syncing? They will surely try to same the look, start love's fire with old driftwood. On a storm surge of virility, powered by 2 pints of IPA, his eyes consumed her figure hugging seawood dress. Would his fins pass the nostalgia test? Mollusk-eyed, watched the main feature, for who could resist this beguiling sea creature? Dancing as they explored a tide-changing sense of affinity, she answered with gull-like certainty, "You've got some gall," which he fishmongered was the best answer of all. Thank you. And Next up, I just wrote this week. And it's one of these poems that came quite quickly, really. I work at a college teaching music students, being a learning assistant. And so just in my way to college on Monday morning, I more or less came up with this. Gusts of wind blow the early morning boredom around, secreting it away amongst cracks in the stonework. This will eventually cause the buildings to collapse. The cranes and orange men shunt about the flood defences as they must, or shelter in the made-to-measure hut, rechecking paperwork. The slanted puddles reveal just how unstable the world's surface has become. The girls are intrigued by silhouettes of Phoenicians. The boys are trying to make themselves invisible. The weekend is forgotten, the next one too far away. The morning's exam results will place each student exactly in the world's hierarchy. This is a shackle very few will shake off, but at least it's warm and dry in here. Thank you. Lots of silent claps.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. So you may have noticed John has a Scottish accent, but he does live in Kendal in South Cumbria at the moment. And for more details on John, please go and visit his website. If you just put John Alexander Scott poet into Google, you will find it easily. Our next poet I'd like to introduce you to is Emma Purshouse. She's been a guest over at Verbalize, but she actually lives quite far away from Cumbria, and she was the first poet laureate for the city of Wolverhampton. One of my favourite poets. She writes a lot in the dialect of Wolverhampton, the Black Country, and she's also written a fantastic book called Dogged, which you really must read if you like good, gritty, working class novels that are excellently funny. So please put your hands together for Emma Purshouse. Hooray!
Oh, thanks, Anne. Yeah, I've got 3 poems for you. And as Anne said, I'm from the English Black Country, which is about as landlocked as you can get. So I'm going to do you a poem about the geography of the place, a poem about language and dialect, and a poem about people. So the first one, I'm going to just take you on a bus and tram journey, a journey I used to make to a place of work. And it's kind of a prayer piece, I suppose. It's called Prayer to the Public Transport System of the Black Country. Praise be to the number 3 and talk of carp fishing and red diesel before 8 o'clock. Praise be to the next tram to arrive and stereo conversations in Punjabi. Praise be to this service is operating normally. Praise be to hold tight, this tram is about to depart and the rustle of 1,000 metro papers. Praise be to the students, to the girl with afro hair and pink chipped nails, to the woman who looks like Sophia Loren. Praise be to it never being too early in the day for silver shoes. Praise be to Black Lake, Guns Village, Great Western Street. Praise be to West Brom Central. Praise be to the number 4 to Blackheath and the stench of unwashed clothes and feet without which no bus journey would be complete. Praise be to the contemplative quiet, to the meditative rolling of roll-ups by the boy with scarred hands and cut knuckles. Praise be to the man with the close-cropped hair that swirls like a galaxy around his crown. Praise be to the prefab units, bridges over the cut, Credina Road and Fountain Lane. Praise be to the pigeons on the fence, to the danger, keep out asbestos signs, and the new houses opposite that look like prison blocks. Praise be to Mama Pearl's cooking at the Old Testament Church of God. Praise be to Lucy Thompson's shop stock taking 50% off. Praise be to Oldbury and the girl in the Batman hat. Praise be to the randomness of sculpture, to minding your hands and not breaking glass. Praise be to pylons in your garden. Praise be to skips filled higher than the no-fill line. Praise be to church spires. Praise be to £8.50 to travel all day. Praise be to flat caps and white hair must be gone 9:30. Praise be to here's my stop to get into work on time. Thank you. And the second poem is about language and dialect and how sometimes you're made to feel a little bit crap about the way that you speak. This poem is in the voice of two flamingos in Dudley Zoo, which is about 4 miles from where I'm sitting. And one of them is a grandma flamingo and the other is a baby, or babby if you come from where I come from. It goes like this. Special, eh, we? He starts again, always mithering with questions. Great being a flamingo, eh it? Always blethering on, he is. I like having feathers, do you? No different when he was an egg. Tap, tap, tappity tap. No peace to be had. He stands on one leg. What was it like in the old days, Nan? Do half remind me of his dad. I got the heart to tell him as how it's always been like this. The pond by the gates, the faces, the chairlift soaring overhead, us sky watching, pale with envy. When I'm growed up, I'll fly the nest to Chile or the south of France. His enthusiasm's killing me. You best talk proper, chick, I say, or you won't get nowhere in this world, like me. He squawks, so pink he is, so pink, my wicked tongue holds back. I shuts my beak, I keeps it zipped. He don't know, our wings am clipped. So that's my flamingos for you. And I'm going to finish with a poem that was a real incident that happened on a bus. You'll hear the word wench in this poem. In the Black country, the word wench is not offensive. It's a term for a girlfriend or a woman. And it's meant to be kind of, all right, my wench, it's very friendly. So when you hear it, it's, yeah, that's the meaning of it. So this is just a little incident to finish with, which happened on a bus. The man with the gap-toothed smile is off back to his flat where he lives alone. See that tattoo? He says, him proffering a forearm, me fumbling for glasses 'cause the devil's in the detail. 75 quid that was. Red hearts, skirt, a woman's name. For a moment he looks lost. Done down Wensfield, one Friday, Brud dumped me by Sunday. I joke he needs another wench, one who's called the same. Fa! He lets out a belly laugh. Forget that. When you gonna be back? I ain't no homing pigeon. He's wrong, of course. We all are, heading home to roost in our respective city lofts. I pause to wave when I get off, and he's there, looking out through the glass, waiting to wave back. 'Cause that's what we do here. We wave, we laugh, we count the cost, cant on buses, natter with strangers, leak out these little bits of our marvellous, glorious lives. Thank you very much for listening.
Hooray! Thank you so much, Emma Purshouse. Thank you for representing us at Verbalize, especially when I know you're not feeling very well. And I absolutely loved that performance. It was so great. And I was so pleased you did your flamingo poem. It's one of my favorites. So if you'd like to know more about Emma Purshouse, please do go and check out her website, which is emmapurshouse.co.uk. The next poet I'd like to introduce to you is my third poet, so third and final poet from Cumbria. It's Chris Nortley, also known as Rowland, Crowland, and he's the king of goblin poetry. Here he is. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks. Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
thank
you hear
you.
me? Yeah, yeah. All right. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's brilliant. This where I live is on the coast of the Irish Sea. I wrote this poem just sitting on the beach. It's called The Cold Sea. The sea calls and the sea's cold, and the sea calls and the sea's cold, and the sea calls and the sea's cold, and the sea calls and the sea's cold. What does the sea care? The cold sea, the heartless sea, the old sea. Gulls cry, ships sail by, the sea don't care if you live or die. The gentle sea with its lapping waves, the cruel sea with its dying slaves, with its haunted hollows and its hidden depths, its sunlit shallows that'll take your breath, and the sea cries you're nothing at all, and it's time to die when the sea calls. Yeah, the sea calls time when it's time to die, but the sea can shine if it's so inclined. When the sea's a mind, it'll move the coastline over time. The sea's sublime. It'll float your inflatable and sparkle like a million sapphires and diamonds, then drown all your children. The scary sea with its bad attitudes, its doldrums and its horse latitudes, its icebergs and its tornadoes, its storms with names that rage and blow. And the sea's everlasting, and the sea's fantastic, and the sea's full of anger, and the sea's full of plastic. The sea cries you're nothing at all, and it's time to die when the sea calls. The sea's cold, the sea's wise, its age is old, and it turns the tides so warrior kings can't stem the waves, and they float white-eyed in eternal graves. Their crowns on the seabed harboring crabs, their bones in the coral bleached and trapped, and the sea cries you're nothing at all, and it's time to die when the sea calls. And even our elders don't understand it, because the sea's unfathomable. The sea's a bandit that'll steal you off to foreign shores and cast you away forevermore, to dance alone on deserted dunes under the full moon, half mad marooned. The sea cries you're nothing at all, and it's time to die when the sea calls. Yet you worship the sea, and you sing to the sea, and you pray to the sea for sanctuary. But the tide turns like it never heard you, because the sea's not listening. The sea's a murderer. The sea cries you're nothing at all, and it's time to die when the sea calls. And I'm on a little boat far from home, nowhere left to go, and I'm lost and alone, and my vessel's reeling to and fro, and the sun goes down and the darkness comes, and I've seen it all, and I'm tired and I'm old, and the sea calls, and the sea's cold, and the sea calls, and the sea's cold, and the sea calls, and the sea's cold, and the sea calls, and the sea's cold. Thank you. Thank you. All right. This next poem was, there's another Northern English poem called Bernadetta Horro, also known as The Bolt, who's a very good poet. And she once referenced me in a poem of hers. The first I heard of it, I saw it written down in a book in one of her publications. And the line in the poem said, that insidious rat boy, Rowland Crowland. So I took it as a compliment, and it inspired this autobiographical piece. It's called Rat Boy. Rowland, Crowland, friend to no one, insidious rat boy, this one, invidious that boy, sprite, beggar's delight, born in the snow on a winter's night, the wild hunt, a mad Shunned, he should be gunned down on the streets of Cheatham and slung on the scrap heap. A scarecrow, this one. He robs, he gets beaten up by the cops. His marbles are all lost. His ideas too diffuse, his rhythms too loose. He's of limited capacity, but still has the audacity to try and rhyme Morrison's with orange juice and think he's got away with it. He's shit, a lying tit, a goblin. A goblin, that's a farce. He wouldn't know a goblin if one bit him on the arse. The creep, he's skin deep, black dripped in ink, smacked off his chin. He's schizophrenic. He doesn't think along right lines. He whines, he wriggles and writhes. He's got sinusitis and St. Vitus dance, a vile virus in raggy pants. Immanuel Kant, corneal transplant, penile implant, says rhyming's his home, but he's more at home on Rhyme Zone. Yeah, he cheats. He's not a proper poet like Byron or Keats. He's an empty street, a knocked over bin, just syllables jumbled up by the wind. Rowland, Crowland, insidious rat boy, hideous rhizome, creeping rootstock. He's no room to talk with his limpy walk. He's a flibberty gibbet, a foul fiend, a gawk. Carrion Crowland steals like a shytalk and flies into the night. He squawks. He's got familial insanity, rejected by humanity, of dubious masculinity. He hides behind goblinity. He cracks, a black slave to his crazy lies. He's disguised. He's eternally despised. He never was baptized. And when he dies, yeah, when he dies, you'll find the bolt right between his eyes. Thank you very much. Bit self-deprecating that in it, but you know.
That was wonderful. Rowland, Crowland, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris Nortley, also known as Rowland Crowland. You'll be able to find him on YouTube if you'd like to watch some of his performances from venues around the north of England. And he also has a couple of books that you can find on Amazon. The first one's called Beggars, and the second one he collaborated with Brian Griffin on a book called Word Dancing in 2021. But I can't tell you how much joy it fills me with watching George react to my favorite poets from Verbalize, and laughing along, and all of you as well. I'm so pleased to be able to be here with you all and to share this brilliant poetry that I've heard over the years. And I can see that I've got a few minutes left, so if it's okay, I'll share some of my own poetry.
Absolutely, please do.
Thank you very much. I'll just share a couple of poems. So this first one I only wrote yesterday, but a friend of mine asked me to write a poem about a journey and to include the word trip. This is called Adventures in the MRI Scanner. Because I have to stay impossibly still, wildness leaks into my imagination. We go on a trip. We are pilots, scuba divers, secret agents. We glide on pulsing, thudding dance floor rhythms. In here, I can't use my eyes or my thumbprint, but your face is within me. Your face is my comfort. Your face is beside me, and we are laughing, although my face is incredibly still. My arms are trapped straight down my sides. I'm not sure if the shock that started in the base of my spine jolted my left foot. The voice in the booth tells me I'm coming out, and I smile because coming out is the best thing I ever did. So that's thank you so much. That's the first poem, and this is my final poem, and then I'll hand over. So I was born and raised in Barrow in Furness, which is on the peninsula in Cumbria. It's got beaches all around, but I always remember the nightclubs there. This is called I Love Barrow. Move, shuffle, cram, shuffle, reaching for the dance floor with sailors and Barovians not sure what we're out for. Shiver, shuffle, jam, shuffle, not in the club yet. Brute, curses, sweat, stilettoed students, high-pitched regret. Tight-top turners, flunked outfitters, teenage mums who got their babysitters. They say this is the cattle market, say this is the Gaza Strip, say these clubs are all dives, we want to get in quick. Step, shuffle, faster shuffle, a night in Barrows grim. Could have stayed at the Keys and drunk Larry's cheapest gin, or found another karaoke hall, or gone on the boat and danced around a dancing girl's pole. And in the week you can check out the same girls at Debenhams checkout if they don't check you out first. Push, shuffle, shove, shuffle. It's the weekend swear where there's no at the end of the day, because we know at the end of the day it's dark and the glitz might be kitsch, but it's a spark in the stark. And the smokers outside are lighting up and the alco pop kids are throwing up. And I get a feeling this town needs bigging up. Let's live it up. It's Saturday. It's late. And if I want to fit in, I need to relate. This town won't improve if we all stand and slate it. This town won't improve if we slag off and fate it. Turn in the crowd and talk to a stranger. Turn in the crowd and talk to your mates. Talk to the person who's had the nose crammed in your back for half an hour. Don't be slack, you've got the power. And if you're going to be crammed, you might as well be tight. I love you, Barrow. Happy weekend. Good night. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, George, for having us. And I'm looking forward to hearing everybody. Thank you.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you, Anne. You put together a fine group of people for us to hear from today. And it's nice, by the way, to reconnect George Fox country. George Fox, the founder of the Quakers, also has a strong association with this part of Long Island, having come here himself. And Walt Whitman's family heritage is part Quaker as well. So, there's another hidden connection that we're sharing here today. So, thank you all from Wolverhampton and from the Cumbria area. We certainly were entertained and enjoyed your accents and vernacular, and it's a pleasure. Thank you. We will now turn to our second group of readers, brought together for you by Rebecca Schumejda. Rebecca, I know as an upstate person up the Hudson Valley. We've done a couple of readings together at a Unitarian fellowship up there, and I remember more the package store that's close by that Unitarian place. Russ Green and a couple of us, Ed Lors and I, drove up there, and we got lost in the beer section of the package store and almost didn't make the reading. But it's a great location. But Rebecca and her operation, Rusty Truck, Trailer Park Quarterly she has a lot of associations beyond the Hudson Valley. I mean, a New Yorker, yes, she's got a couple books with New York Quarterly, but her most recent book is put out by Stubborn Mule. And Jason, you'll know that group from the Kansas City and southern Missouri area. She does have a lot of associations with the West Coast, having studied at San Francisco State University. I think 2 of the 3 people here have very strong associations with the West Coast as well. So, as a non-geographic entity, this magazine, which she puts out, it brings together people of a certain, perhaps, like-mindedness in terms of the kinds of work that they do, but all stitched together beautifully by this very talented artist and poet herself, Rebecca Schumejda. Please welcome her.
Thanks, George. It's such a pleasure to hear everyone read. Thank you so much. We're gonna start with I run Trailer Park Quarterly, and my co-editor right now is Jason Baldinger. He's gonna read first. He's a poet and photographer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's penned many, many books. Amongst them are A History of Backroad, Misplaced, selected poems from 210 to 220. And that was from Kung Fu Treachery Press. And This Still Life, Kung Fu Treachery Press, with James Benger. His first book of photography just came out, Lazarus, which is amazing. He's appeared in many journals and has a lot of work on Bandcamp, so definitely check out his work on Bandcamp. So here's Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
Thanks, Becky. Yeah, I'm Jason Baldinger. I'm a poet from Pittsburgh. I'm gonna read you a few new poems and a few poems from various books here as quickly as I can. This is new. This is called When Noise Was Young. Back when noise was young, pedal boards on dive bar stages, delay and distortion, the din of traffic, all those nothing doing Saturdays lost in feedback loops. Practice space couches overlook Mexican markets. I was learning to carry this city in my teeth then. The chain American diners of our formative years. All-night coffee and cigarettes, friendly cockroaches pull up a chair. Gathered around a talkback mic as boards bled red, needles never waver, acoustic guitars, split speakers. 25 years. How the shit did we count on anything? The place's sounds carried us, the place's sound left us. The communion found on stages, ears ringing at 3 a.m., still amped, drunk, and bereft. The last time we bumped into each other is another memory condemned. You tell me the darkness gets harder to swallow now, settles in longer, takes more than it once did, and sometimes you just can't let it go. With your father's death, questions linger, legacy and gender, neither ever fit right. There's no one left now to please except yourself. You reintroduce his Callie after years spent listless, living in a skin that never fit right, working through a legal world. But once you sign the papers, maybe you'll find yourself in that drying ink as another dead name falls away. Sorry, I have a slightly, my cat is suffering from the early stages of dementia, and she's decided she wants to climb all over me now. Not fun. This is American Aorta. It's my new book. Came out with Lazarus, which is my first book of photography. I'm going to read you a couple poems from that. This first poem has the slightly unwieldy title of, this poem was written for John Dorsey in the El Bronco Bar, Richmond, Indiana. Chill as fuck across Gossamer, Ohio, through endless western sunset. Babe, I'm sorry it was you cancer took to the prom. When friends hear you're together, they freeze in existential headlights. Brother, I'm sorry grief doles out shitty drunk lap dances. No care if those ducats ever roost in a G-string. John, I promise you fried chicken, and all the world-shaking doom allows in less than a Waffle House day. I'll be on the horn to Gus's as soon as I kill the engine in the Sky High Pie parking lot. Maplewood is an armadillo away. The other night over dinner, I said magic and loss. I say it often, in and out of context. A friend replied that with enough time served, magic doesn't hold sway over the ocean of loss that we worship at now. And I can't say I disagree, except the waitress who calls me amigo like I've never left just delivered a grande margarita. And in the hum of 300 easy miles and the shine of tequila, I won't want to buy a camper. But I have the receipt for a short walk in the lights between Speedway and Meyer, lights that stretch from here as far as Midwest, wherever. You know, I'll be there soon. I'll do two more from this book. This next poem. Now, we're going to just do two poems from this book. This is called The Deep Ellum Blues. This is for the Dallas poet Paul Konecki. This poem is batshit. It would take forever to introduce it. I'm just going to read it and hold on for dear life. That's all I can say. I've never seen Dallas from a DC-10 at night. But the saw that floats through that Flatlander's song is every phantom embodied across the miles, Lubbock to Wichita Falls. I've never taken the 287 ramp and followed highways into the Zapruder film. Now history is a Butthole Surfers video. Allen Dulles was wholly responsible for the Kennedy assassination, for America's second bloody coup. He was killed because the Cuban Missile Crisis had turned him from hawk to chicken hawk. It tore out his spine, left him and a world longing for peace. Revenge and capitalism can't survive peace. Hence Lee Harvey Oswald, hence Jack Ruby, hence what really happened on the grassy knoll can carry its weight in mystery. Paul, I headed for Texarkana because sometimes the road offers no salvation. Sometimes the wheels are another form of madness. You should be smoking joints in the backyard of Oswald's rooming house, and you'd look at me as Larry Levis and say, "So death blows his little fucking trumpet. Big deal." And I'd answer as Phil Levine, "I can hear the even breathing of all that is wordless, final." And the Butthole Surfers play the Shaw Sleeps and Lee Harvey's grave, and maybe our preaching days are through. Because when the night dusts off those Tejas stars, fuck if I don't fall hard into the deep Ellen blues. All right, this next poem is called a Howard Johnson prayer. Hotel chain that has been extinguished and has been reborn now. Nothing has the right being this beautiful. In the mighty exhale of crossing the heartland again, the chill that saturates post-Labor Day, the sun already a victim, but there are no stars in this fenced-in pool parking lot watering hole with logos looming and billboards crowing and traffic blowing past, headlights through honeycomb and the interstate close enough to hear it whinny at the horizon. Another outlaw moment. Flat Earth and floodplain, 250 miles and 25 milligrams, waiting on the corn stalks to colonize these temples. Cold blue water steals as it reinforces this essence. I float on dreams that stretch middle Mississippi to Machu Picchu. I float a black and white dream, memories of a dark sky, meditation. One last poem for you. It's called Kerouac Go Home. It's from my selected History of Backroads Misplaced. I hear the waitress's footfalls and they sound like roses as they echo at Avenue B, as they echo at the Avenue of the Americas, at the intersection of Bleecker and McDougal, where Silsby can't understand why there are so many fucking people. Sure, he's got a few drinks in him. But I never thought I'd see New Yorkers turn heads at open indictments of procreation, or at least procreation, with the intent of furthering the fading bulb of humanity. Jay and Allie say they used to write Kerouac Go Home on the men's room wall at the White Horse. Dylan Thomas bleeds out. That blood trail runs to the Chelsea Hotel. I slipped on it when I tried to remember the last time I had a future. I tried to remember the last time I saw the ocean. There were Mustangs racing on the Garden State Parkway. There were little hands waving on the BQE. I swear there was a Liberty torch in the harbor, its head struggling above the surface. I've snagged myself a driftwood sculpture. There's so much debris the gulls have picked through the soft-shelled and horseshoe crabs, the few untouched or boiling to burst. But the ocean, it still waves under the twin eyes of lighthouses. It never bothered magic or loss. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, George. I look forward to hearing everybody else. Thank you for everybody who read. Cheers.
Thanks, Jason. So Trailer Park Quarterly really focuses on working class poetry, and we love to do new things. But Curtis Hayes is just such an amazing working class poet, and he does what we love. So Curtis has worked as a grip, a gaffer, and a set builder in the film industry. He's been a truck driver, a boat rigger, a print journalist, and a screenwriter. He's done the college thing, but more importantly, he writes about real people. And I think that's what makes him a beautiful poet. So Curtis, we look forward to hearing you.
Thanks, Becky. Can everybody hear me okay? That's good. Okay. Really pleased to be here. Really enjoyed the Cumbrian poets. Always loved Jason, and you know, I'm just so pleased to be here. And I know Wendy's coming up. She's using my iPad, so I think my name is going to be on there. And we'll just make that clear that when Wendy comes up, that is Wendy. Okay. So this first piece is called The New Deal. It's from my book, Bottleneck Slide. And it goes like this. I would fire up my motorcycle at 6:30 every morning. It was a quick ride to one of the last working sawmills in Los Angeles, where I would run rough lumber through a 10-ton planer for 9 hours a day. The machine was an industrial age survivor, once painted green, now weathered, but still solid, with the year 1907 cast into the framework in large numerals by the long-shuttered LA foundry that had created it. Sticking to surface streets, I would glide through the morning air, lucky to leave the hell of the choked freeways to others. My route took me past a bar called the New Deal Saloon, ramshackle, sun-bleached, and open for business at 5 a.m. The front door was always open, and I could usually make out 3 or 4 dark outlines seated at the bar, lit by a juke in the back of the room. I felt bad for them. Slumped, broken, smoking discount cigarettes, still young enough to assume that they were different from me. I'd tell myself that they were regular guys just off a swing shift at one of the South Bay refineries, except the refineries were miles away, and my route was mostly past shut down defense plants and boarded up machine shops. Every morning I'd approach the New Deal and slow down a little bit to get a look inside, telling myself that I would never be one of them. It was obvious that inside that dank room, the New Deal was always the old deal. At the mill, I'd pour a cup of coffee and start pushing trees. No one wore work gloves at the saws. They could catch on a blade and pull your hand in with it. The old men at the mill would hold up their hands as they shuffled by, and with a kind of salute, they'd show off their missing fingers and disfigurements. No one had to open their mouth and say, "Be careful, kid." The New Deal was finally bulldozed into splinters and sticks. The gravel parking lot, with its 50-year saturation of piss and puke, is now jammed tight with cheaply built condos. Soon after, I split from my job at the mill, with all my fingers intact. I began drifting from one thing to the next, working hard, still hanging on to the great lie, and unaware that the graveyard shifts and the early morning drinking were waiting for me only a few years down the road. Okay, this one is called Las Cruces, New Mexico, 1992. Shelley's mother lived alone, where the last paved road gets erased by the desert. We stopped the rental car in front of a small house bordered by a low stone wall. Shelley passed me the supermarket roses while I watched as she checked her makeup in the rearview mirror. It was 10 steps to the house. She appeared from behind the screen door, looking like a kind of regal pioneer woman in a gingham dress, her long silver hair tightly wound into a braid. I told her that I was pleased to finally meet her. We sat outside on cracked porch furniture, drinking coffee. She had a quiet demeanor and seemed to be waiting for the sun to drop behind the distant mountains, as she would have on any other day. Shelley asked her mother about her bad hip and if she was sleeping all right. I looked out at the open desert spreading out to forever. and made some comment about the crisp air and feeling like we were at the edge of the world. But all I could think about was the night in my car when Shelley cried uncontrollably for almost an hour. It was our third date, and she would not tell me what was wrong. Forcing some composure, as I parked in front of her apartment, she grabbed the armrest with one hand and the dashboard with the other, stared down at the floor. My mother was into drugs for most of my childhood. Our house was full of junkies and losers, and they got to me and to my little sister. Don't hate me. Before I could say anything, she pushed open the car door and ran into the building. We did not speak or look at each other, the three of us studying the wide open vista. I sipped coffee and after a long silence mumbled a few words about the clean air and living at the edge of the world. Okay. The last one I've got today is called Cinerama. And I'm going to have to wear glasses for this one. Okay, Cinerama. The old Mac Sennett studio is still open for business. I get in here from time to work on car commercials or music videos. Below the stages, there are 3 basement levels jammed with artifacts from comedy's golden age, some dating back to the studio's grand opening in 1912. Old Man Sennett, the slapstick king, built an empire out of Keystone Cops and flying custard pies when film shorts were called flickers and Echo Park was called Edendale. The first level below is crowded with equipment. We descend a short stairway to pick through the rental lights and the C-stands. There is the sound of footsteps and muted voices from the busy stage overhead. The walls down here are painted red, and nobody asks why. The stage managers tell stories of late night raps interrupted by unexplained noises, lights blinking on and off, or clamps and hand tools falling from a wooden shelf with a hard crack. They talk of voices and movement just out of view, and they speak of these occurrences solemnly. The second level below is stacked with hundreds of rolled canvas backdrops that once served as opulent ballrooms or the shores of the Nile. We wander down here on our breaks, hoping our walkies remain silent. It is here that we are told to be aware. The cigar-chomping buffoon in bowler hat, ill-fitting suit, and pancake makeup may stumble past. Or we may catch a flash of a sad-eyed waif or an immaculate director in jodhpurs lining up a shot that will never be captured. The third level, we are told, is off limits. The hours stretch into the night, and I move lights and route electricity directed from a voice behind a camera. We all stay quiet while another take unwinds. In some places, the old wooden floor flexes under my weight. The same boards where Fatty Arbuckle, Harold Lloyd, and Charlie Chaplin once hit their marks. Outside is the $9 glass of beer, freeway traffic, thick enough to kill your soul, and the homeless grinding against each other under the freeway overpass. There is vomit on the sidewalks of what once was called Edendale. I work into the night, hoping for something ethereal. The smell of ancient tobacco, laughter from the dark, a faint echo of barrel house piano. I hope for magic tonight at the old Mac Sennett studio. Thank you, Rebecca. And thank you, George, as well.
Thanks, Curtis. That was awesome. The next poet is going to be Wendy Rainey, who I love her work. I've loved her work forever. Wendy Rainey is author of Hollywood Church, short stories and poems, and Girl on the Highway. She was the winner of the Annie Menenbroker Award for Trailer Park Quarterly, and she studied poetry with Jack Grapes and creative writing with Gerald Lachlan. Welcome, Wendy.
teacher. Hey man, I had a hippie teacher in school.
Wendy, you're on mute.
Thank you. Hey, Wendy, you might be on mute. Do you think you can go to Curtis's to his computer? Zoom is such an like interesting flow. I'm like always the one that messes it up. So Wendy, trust me, I am like always getting that.
Okay, we'll just start over.
Welcome, Wendy.
That's good. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I have a couple of poems. My hippie teacher. Hey man, I had a hippie teacher in school. He had wild curly hair and a beard. Scooped tuna fish straight out of the can with rye crisp. Never used mayo. Hated soggy Wonder Bread. One day my hippie teacher said, everyone write your name on a piece of paper and pin it to your shirt. Every time someone puts you down, every time someone has a laugh at your expense, every time someone makes you feel less than who you are, tear off a little piece of your name and throw it on the ground. Why do we have to do this? Someone whined. Exactly, is all he said. By the end of the day, the carpet was littered with our torn names. And while I was on the floor with my classmates throwing our mess into the trash can, I had an uneasy feeling about my school, my parents, my friends, my hippie teacher, myself, and the condition of the entire human race. There was a kid named Steve in our class. He lied all the time, even about the small things. My hippie teacher said, Steve, I'm going to give you another chance to tell the truth. Don't lie to me this time. All year long, my hippie teacher never gave up on Steve, but Steve kept lying. Kids were like, it isn't cool to lie, Steve. Just be real with us, dude. Steve whipped his head around to face the class. Everyone lies. You're all a bunch of liars. Sometimes I think I have a guy named Steve inside of me. Sometimes I say to myself, Steve, I'm going to give you another chance to tell the truth. Just be yourself, man, and don't lie to me this time. My hippie teacher read the Gettysburg Address to us one afternoon. I liked it so much I memorized it. Sometimes even now I wonder, where is our battlefield? Where is the consecrated ground? What is our unfinished work? What happens if the government of the people, for the people, by the people, perishes from the earth? How then shall we hallow our filth? My hippie teacher appeared in class one day, clean shaven with a short haircut. We could only stare as he sat at his desk facing us. Someone started to laugh, then the whole class broke into laughter. He motioned for us to quiet down. Running his hands through his new precision cut and across his freshly shaven face, he said, I'm smooth on the outside now, kids, but I'll always be hairy on the inside. I had a hippie teacher in school, man. He painted a mural of an upside down oak tree on the classroom wall. It was a long time ago, but sometimes I still close my eyes and visualize that upside down tree floating in the air. Its roots are reaching for the sky. Its leaves are falling in the dirt. And I am falling onto this planet, this battlefield, this consecrated ground, where I am still searching for my torn name, my bucket of lies, and my smooth, freshly shaven heart. Thank you. I have one more poem. AstroTurf. I was living in the middle of nowhere. By nowhere, I mean a trailer park in the desert. Pink flamingos, AstroTurf, plastic flowers in the yard. The old lady living next door to me kept a pistol in a Wonder Bread bag near the eggs in the refrigerator. Her trailer was plastered with posters of the movies she had appeared in. Her young, insolent face stared at me through prison bars whenever I came over for coffee. Through her window, I could see her 6-inch crimson nails in claws of a tigress while I fed the mockingbirds before work. There was a photo of her son in a wheelchair on her nightstand, his nurse kneeling beside him, his tiny fingers squeezing her arm. She kept his ashes in a Folgers coffee jar in the kitchen by the stove. I could hear her talking to him while she fried Spam and eggs. I was a waitress at Kay's Diner off Highway 89A in the middle of nowhere. By nowhere, I mean the young cook working there made pancake faces of demonic possession and empty-eyed madness. He spent his lunch break sketching old-timers cracking wise at the counter, their bodies disintegrating into their stools, their ancient faces falling into a vortex of steaming coffee. I saw him changing out of his uniform one day in the locker room. His spine slithered left and right. There were scars on his shoulders, looked like cigarette burns. His boots were held together with duct tape and staples. When Kay found his meat sculpture suspended from the ceiling of the walk-in freezer, she screeched at him, "Clean out your locker and don't ever come back." The geezers at the counter all told Kay to give the kid another chance, but he was already out the door. Ripping off my polyester apron, I ran outside to the gravel lot, hopped on the back of his Norton, my arms encircling his waist. As he peeled out, Kay hollered, "Where the hell do you think you're going with that little freak?" "Nowhere," I whispered. And by nowhere, I mean there was nothing but the highway and the fossils of beasts that had crawled the sandy beaches of a now extinct ocean, stretching out ahead of us into the dwindling light. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wendy. Thank you, George, so much for having us. I'm just going to read one short poem because of timing.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. The poem I'm going to read is from a new book that Jason and I worked on together. It's coming out. It is called Hope is a Prison. It has his photography and my poems. So this is from that, and it's written by from 3 different perspectives of women after Roe v. Wade. So it's kind of talking about morality in life and in a way of people, not the law. This is called Acquiring Tools. What Liberty doesn't understand is that she has it easy. I didn't have a mother or a father. I lived with my aunt and uncle. When my uncle said, "Go grab me a wrench," he meant bend over his workbench. A screwdriver meant open your legs. A clamp meant keep your mouth shut. My aunt stayed in the house, placed lace doilies over hard surfaces. When she said I was lucky he taught me how to fix broken things, she meant you're on your own. When she said wash your hands before sitting down to eat, she meant don't bring truth to the table. When we bowed our heads before a meal and my uncle said grace, it meant be thankful. It can always be worse. So thank you so much, George. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rebecca. Wow, I've heard some great stuff so far. Even the tech person at Walt Whitman Birthplace is mentioned in the chat room how great everybody has been so far, and it's really true. All of you that are with us today that are in the audience, please feel free to, leave comments in the chat room, which is it's been pretty active so far, and show that your appreciation that you're enjoying the performances. So we have heard from Cumbria in the UK. We've heard from Trailer Park Quarterly with Rebecca, and now we're going to turn to Chuck Joy and two individuals that he's brought together to perform with us here in Poets Building Bridges. This is the second time that Chuck has brought a group. Last season, he brought the Borson twins, Matt and Mark, with him to this. And Chuck is no stranger to any of you from the New York area that has been coming to our poetry readings at the Parkside Lounge. He's read there himself, other locations in New York. So I think you'll recognize him. Also Jason, for that matter, has read with us there, perhaps some others. But Chuck is no stranger to the New York area. And in fact, although he's the former poet laureate of Erie, Pennsylvania, I think I know him first as a Fredonia guy. The first time I showed up in Fredonia to read with Vince in Fredonia, he pronounced himself to be, I don't know, third generation Fredonia or something like that. He's not, and so that this area of the Lake Erie, from Buffalo south to Fredonia, and then west to Erie, Pennsylvania, and on to Cleveland, is a ripe, rich area for poetry and for our Rust Belt culture in America, and Chuck represents that really well. Erie is a very special town in a lot of ways. Erie, Pennsylvania, is that little pipe at the top of Pennsylvania which connects Pennsylvania to the Venice of Lake Erie, which is Erie, Pennsylvania. It's a great little town if you've not been there. He'll tell you about it, I think, and he'll introduce his two friends to us today. So please welcome Chuck Joy.
Thank you, George. We'll just call the region Erie, PA, USA, and we are three poets from Erie. I'll introduce Todd and Mabel separately. Mabel first, and then I'll close. So Mabel, Howard, let me introduce you. Mabel is a poet living in Erie, an artist and a word artist. A producer, Mabel is hosting the current iteration of Erie's weekly poetry event. Mabel Howard also produces 2 monthly poetry shows, one in a bookstore and one in an art gallery. If you want to read your poetry in Erie, contact Mabel. An entrepreneur, her Cafe 710 provides a home for poetry in Erie. A facilitator, Mabel is committed to you expressing yourself. She cares about people. Now let's hear from her. Mabel Howard.
Thank you, Chuck. So today I've selected 3 short poems to share. The first one is called Spontaneous Combustion. Human beings are like chemicals. No matter how much we want to mix things up, if it's not the right balance, spontaneous combustion is bound to happen. And I'm actually reading from work that I had as part of a gallery show, so I'm reading from photos. This next piece is inspired by Maya Angelou's, and it's a correspondence poem. Her poem, Still I Rise. I'll continue to rise, no matter what traps are intentionally set for me. I'll continue to rise like the dreams that were birthed through Martin Luther King. I'll continue to rise by the trend that starts with the word diversity. The troubles come before the blessings. I'll be sure to take notes as I learn the lessons put in place, causing me to level up. My path has been shaped like the iron and the fire, preparing me for directions that are taking me higher. The butterfly effect has truly been set by angels I haven't heard or even seen yet, but I surely felt their presence while they provided protection. I won't forget the one who's really in charge. With him, I can be free to let down my guard and continue to rise with my hopes and dreams. Continue to rise because I'm on the right team. Continue to rise like I'm supposed to do, walking in the steps divinely ordered. The next poem I'm going to read is in blitz form. So you'll kind of notice what that sounds like as I'm reading. It's called Leading Light. Wood can be built upon, wood can be carved, carved into a table, carved into a work of art. Art that unites families, art to gather and speak. Speak about the workday, speak to bring about peace. Peace within a family, peace from a troubled day. Day at the workplace, day ending so late. Late into the evening, late after the children's games. Games demanding practices, games both won and lost. Lost because missing from the audience, lost the support of the family. Family there to cheer at the game, family sharing love with open arms. Arms saying everything will be all right. Arms that say, do better next time. Time that your team is up to play. Time I will be there at your game. Game that you play with your team. Game that you win, I'll be there to see. See you in the times that you need open arms. See you become the rising star. Star that many describe as the light. Star being molded and prepared for leading. Leading light. And I'll finish with a poem that was actually inspired through a conversation at a small cafe that I run in Erie, Pennsylvania. A young lady just sat and spoke with me for several hours, and her life just hadn't been so good. So this inspired me to write, Set the Beast Free. It breaks me when one cannot see beauty because the beast was unleashed. When we open up, allowing others to gain trust, a roar begins because it's threatened by the opening of gates that have been sealed with threats, trauma, and lies. The enemy uses this as a secret device, separating us from all we're meant to be: free, empowered, bold, unique. The process of healing may not be a good feeling. You'll have to face your fears, and this will bring many tears. But cry for as long as you need to. Drown out the beast, the voices heard that are keeping you from peace. Then take out a pen and write. There's power in words, so speak life. You're destined for greatness, and soon you will see. Once discovering the power of your beautiful story, you'll set the beast free. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabel Howard. I'd like now to introduce Todd Paropacic. Todd is a poet living in Erie, an artist, and a publisher. I'm hoping you'll get to visit his publisher's table at September's Indie Lit Festival in Frostburg, Maryland, USA. A musician and a songwriter, Todd Paropacic fronts the band Piano Punk. An actor, Todd played theatrical roles while a student at Gannon University. He works at the Erie Art Museum That's why I call him Erie's Frank O'Hara. Now let's hear for him, Todd Paropacic.
I forgot that I wasn't going to hear the claps. It was like, oh, I'm ready for the clapping. Okay. My name's Todd, as Chuck so great and introduced me so well. So I'm gonna get right into it. I got 3 poems today, 2 medium long and 1 pretty short one. The first poem is from 2021, around the time I published my first and second book of poetry. One I published through my own thing called What Why Aesthetics, and that was Hack and Sack, or I'm only here because New York is like right there. And this poem is from the collection The Crepe Crusade, crepe as in eggy waffle thing. They're both available on Amazon, as is my third book, but this poem is I wrote it because I read the Surrealist Manifesto in December of 2020, and I realized I've been doing automatic writing and surrealism for a long time. So this is my first like surreal poem with the knowledge that it was done in the surrealism style, and it's called Hello, Mystery. Fiber optic substations and the chance to climb to the tippity top of old Liberty's frock, a crock in a barrel. Play another Isthmus carol to sustain the remains of a heretic, the hysterical remains of a life lived in fame, all shame abandoned at the altar of Tamerlane. What you can't keep in the holes of the bottoms of your pockets and the crack of a locket that could stop the pop of a Davy Crockett pocket rocket, what you can't keep will Houdini into a tub or some tanker trailer with a chair and a gas lamp. The other side of the coin is its absence. To be is be to a string of ticks and toxic talks and talking with anyone who has a finger on anything that resembles a button. The health of the area is equal to the effort put in, to the negative power of the effort put off, divided by the effort to tear it all down. It's as simple as a mathematic ideal, thematically reeling out and back again like some surgical Mobius strip. If you stare at the sun for too long, you'll never see anyone but. If you peer into the night, just remember everyone is as blind as you. How comforting it is to be mutually assured of unilateral incompetence. Mediocrity knows no party and sees no line between the horizon and the sand. It's all a 3D wallpaper that's on sale for $2 a week. It's all the fish and herring eggs that never made it up the creek. The Matterhorn may be steep, but whoever found themselves on top must have felt cool for a while. I'm on the 2nd floor, and I feel like a god. Thank you. All right, this is the short one. In 2022, I had my first visual art exhibition, and I made it a whole thing. Like, I had a book release. I debuted it was a lounge pop duo, and now it's a crooner pop trio. And I also, I had an opening night, and it was my first time getting into the visual art world. And this poem is about that experience. It's one of the more positive things I've written. It's called Opening Night. Sometimes the boomerang actually returns. Sometimes you throw it and it comes back as it ought to do, as expected. Just remember to lift your hand and catch it. It's hard to make a boomerang travel in a full circle, but it's even more difficult to expect you're having to reach out and snagging it before you miss your stop. Like, who is the first guy who threw a curved stick and thought, oh yeah, that'll be back here in a jiff? Like, centrifugal theory was founded before the English waddled their whole way around the universe and repelled into everyone's pockets. Sir Isaac Newton said it in a language that we could understand first. It's difficult throwing a boomerang in such a way that it comes back, but it's even harder expecting that your toss was clean enough to get the opportunity to catch. Thank you. That was a little light. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I wrote this one in March 2023. I was trying to save my inspiration to do a whole, 30 poem, 30-day challenge for National Poetry Month. And I wasn't able to save it because I just had to write it because in early winter or late winter 2023, something actually happened or something happened in the world, and it kind of affected me. And it struck me as to how much it wasn't going to affect me in my immediate life. And that's what this poem's about. It's called Mariupol. I still don't know what a bomb sounds like. I think I've heard an explosion once, a couple miles away. Gunshot or firework? More often than not, the latter. Once, some friends tipped an overstuffed faux suede couch onto its ass, like a tall cow, set it ablaze. That's the hottest I've ever felt. Sweat buckets that evaporated with the polyurethane and balsa beams. Must have lost 10 pounds that night. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I don't understand what's going on, so I shouldn't try to relate, right? Like, who am I to write about a war in a place that I'm not from? But war is bad and evil, but I have nothing to compare it to. A tired city village, melted siding, rippling to the shingles. The dream is alive like a firing fly, chipping away at the edifice of state, one errant dynasty at a time. Make life boring for all, at any cost. Let no generation in every corner of the land inhabited by humanity remember the devastation, desecration, and destruction wrought by the machinery of war. All we need is love, right? I think Woodrow said that. Look, I know I'm just evading and that my sarcasm and sneering platitudes are just some tricks that I pull out of my sleeves whenever I feel sad. But what do you do? How should I know what to do when the hospitals are followed by the best war games of 2022 and mushrooms in art news? I'm trying to buy a house and kids are dying in an apartment in Mariupol, huddled close for protection. There are some things that tenderness, heroism, and conscientiousness can't fix. The mushroom clouds are growing from our century-old basement floors. But what about the homeowners whose cellars are in full bloom? Thank you. I'm Todd, and I'm from Erie.
Thank you, Todd Paropacic. You are from Erie. I'm Chuck Joy, and I'm a poet living in Erie, and I'll close for our trio from Erie. I was brought to Erie from Cleveland during the first year of life, and I've lived there ever since, except for educational stays in New York City, Pittsburgh, and West Virginia. You can find more about me at www.chuckjoy.com. I'm excited to be here. I was so excited I started to get anxious, and I got anxious about what poems to bring for this wonderful occasion until I remembered this poem called Choosing Poems, and it's from a collection called Fun Poetry from 2010. Choosing Poems. There isn't enough said or maybe known about a poet choosing poems for a show. How to choose just some from all the rest. Perhaps something inconsequential first, one or two short poems about dogs, or a trip, a friendly hand extended toward the audience.
works best if you're not too angry and move quickly to something with sex or death next. If you're old enough, the death can be your mother's. You could follow that with one about your father. A psychiatrist might interpret that choice as reaction formation, but no matter. What does a psychiatrist know about poetry shows? Remember your books. Read from every volume. Poems you love the best or hate the worst. It doesn't matter how you feel or what you think. And you do think you have strong opinions. So don't forget to read the poem you wrote to change the world. And did you remember the maiden voyage piece, word version? The poem you wrote to warm up your throat? Go back. Put that in at the top. You can do that. We're still choosing here. This is not happening. It will, and it will end as they do poetry shows, and you conclude with something existential, stones on the beach or fallen trees, nothing too ambivalent, not here, where you need to leave a clear line of sight toward the applause. Be prepared with an encore. Thank you. I love short form. Thank you. I will read a short form poem now. It's a 3-line poem, so it goes by pretty fast. It's from a collection called Percussive from 2017. All my books are available at Werner Books in Erie, Pennsylvania, as well as everywhere books are sold by order and the internet. This poem is called Our Love Nest. High in a tall pine, been here a long time. This tree'll go before we do. Thank you. That is dedicated to my sweet wife, Dawn. Now, something geographic, something about location seems essential to what we're doing here today with this wonderful event. So I've brought something that reflects a large view of my region, our region, and also will appear in a regional, local member publication called Pennsylvania's Poetic Voices. It's a little ekphrastic poem, 4 lines, goes by pretty fast. The title is almost longer than the content. The poem is called Text Posted to Facebook with a photo of the Thousand Islands Bridge. Someday I'll visit Kingston, Ontario. Here's as close as I've been lately. We turned downriver toward Salaberry. That's as close to Kingston I've been lately. Thank you. 2 more. This next poem is included in my next featured collection, which should be coming out in March. The poem is called Captured by Earth People. They tried to kill me, reluctantly took custody, placed me among them, providing an education I could easily skip. As is their custom, I was expected to sell my time for money, the more the better, or I could sink to the bottom, a homeless alien. I missed my old home, the mostly sleeping, the community trough always available. Every time looking up to the orange sky, a novel combination of our 7 moons. Thank you. Captured by Earth People. And I'm going to close with a newish poem. It's a new edit for today's event. And I'd like to say thank you, Mabel Howard, for your joining us today. And also thank you, Todd Paropacic. This poem is called The Lion. Bird calls, tall trees, white sky, summer morning. The opportunity to write outside, if not exactly within nature, the cathedral of the forest, at least on the porch. Nature, a rabbit, shabby but purposeful, works its ears, paused. Our blue flag with the yellow flowers hangs from its horizontal pole and has for weeks, responding to the gentle breaths of air the only way it can, swinging, while I, pen in hand, record the scent of honeysuckle, the memory of coffee, the thudding gallop of a train, distant noise, a fading roar. Nothing without imagination. Everything as words, senseless, blind, silent. The Lion. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, George Wallace, for the invitation. And God bless us, everyone.
All right, Chuck Joy. Put your hands together for Chuck Joy and his friends from Erie, Pennsylvania. What good timing each of you have put in just the right amounts. I would just like to point out that all three of our compares in their own way have been, exceptionally supportive of other people in the world of poetry and community and building the community of poets for themselves in their region or in the non-geographic community of interest, which is Trailer Park Quarterly. It's this combination of writing talent and willingness to work and develop for the sake of community, which is something I admire greatly. And all three of our compares today illustrate that in spades. So thank you for all you do for poetry and for your poetry as well, Chuck and Rebecca and Anne Grant in the UK. Well, this is our second session. We're about to conclude, but before we do, I'm going to post one more time on the chat room the website. It's the URL for the compilation of all three seasons of Poets Building Bridges to date, which is available for you to retrieve any particular show. This show will be up there in a couple of days, thanks to the good work of the Walt Whitman Birthplace in recording this today. Next March 9th, we will have with us poets from Oklahoma, from St. Augustine, Florida, and a group of poets with Swiss connections through the auspices of Lucilla Trapazzo. So great show coming up in March and straight through the year, nationally, internationally. You're going to see some super stuff, just like what we had today, this triangulation, which is its own special concept. And I realized it's actually pyramiding. So between the three communities, we build a meta community of poets. So thank you all for participating in the various ways you do, either as a reader today or as an audience member today. All of you have an important role to play in making this happen. So without further ado, I'll signal to Walt Whitman Birthplace to sign us off.